Hey folks, Doug Blake with Body Design University. In this video, I want to take you into chapter 23 at the very end. It's where NASM gives you some clues, ideas, tips on how to deal with the chronic health conditions. And in this case, obesity. It starts on page 767. And there's any number of things that they do want you to know. And probably the first important thing to keep in mind is table 23.5, which is the BMI index. Now, BMI, body mass index. It's simply a measure of the height of an individual versus their weight, right? So basically, they're giving you a number that says that in very general, in large populations, the taller you are or the thinner you are, based on this ratio that they give you, you're either too heavy for your height, normal for your height, weight wise, or light for your height. And you can be any number of those. Now we know, and just remember, this is a measurement that weightlifters, bodybuilders, those of us in the fitness industry, we don't use this at all. Even physicians will not, even to a certain extent, when dealing with average individuals, won't even use it as a criteria. Really, it's what's generally being done now is being used in those populations of obese individuals, because at a certain level, yeah, it could be a problem if the total amount of weight you're carrying for your height, even if it is muscle mass, is still problematic for your cardiovascular system. So yes, those top level pro competitive bodybuilders they are massively obese according to the numbers. Now we know that they have body fat levels significantly below 10, and they have a ton of muscle, and we go, well, they must be healthy. And no, even then, at those levels of total body weight and mass, it is a significant stress on the cardiovascular system. Please do not think that that's healthy at all. Just because body fat levels are low, that's not the only variable and risk factor or issues related to, quote, health and wellness. It's not. So just keep that in mind. So the use of BMI is given to you because it's still used in the clinical world. And to a certain extent, NASM and all the other NCCA accredited organizations do want you to know this. Because again, you're not going to deal with pro bodybuilders. So you're not going to have to worry about whether or not their muscle mass is too high and the BMI doesn't work. For the average client, it could actually, correlate. Now, again, like I was saying, we take body fat percentage. I'm more interested in somebody that's 20% body fat versus 12 versus 25 or whatever the case is, versus just their BMI. But it's in the book, and I want to make sure you understand certain important things about this. And the first one is table 23.5, where we see a BMI, and you should know these numbers. The important number is 30. So a body mass index of 30 or higher means that that person falls under the clinical definition of obese. When you go from 30 or higher, once you hit 35 on the BMI, 35 now says you are very high. Your disease risk is very high, and you are sort of stage 2 obesity, right? Second level of obesity. So you're obese from 30 to 34.9, and then 35 or higher, you're like stage 2 or level 2 obesity 2. And then if your BMI is 40 or greater, it is level or stage 3, however you want to say it. And that's what they want you to know. Those are the important numbers to understand when you're looking at table 23.5. Individuals that have BMIs that are pretty low, like less than 18, that could be actually a problem. And it even tells you that their disease risk is increased. So not having enough body weight can be symptomatic of either disease state, things like that. And they're going to go on and give you the basic information on page 768 of how you should be training the obese individual. And of course, in general, the heavier an individual is, the more stress, that certain exercises are going to place onto their joints, right? Ankles, knees, and hips. And so NASM just wants you to know that for the most part, you're going to train them similar to the average person, but they're going to give you these basic guidelines. Remember, they have two tables for each of these chronic conditions. And in this case, table 23.6 and 23.7 are going to give you the guidance that you need. So the physiologic and training considerations who are overweight or obese is on page 770. So you can read those physiologic considerations. And then, of course, the considerations now for health and fitness. And then from a purely training perspective, the most significant part of the two tables is going to be the basic exercise guidelines. And just keep in mind, the way you're doing your training, what you're using for exercise modalities should be low impact. I think that makes sense, right? Because the individual with higher BMIs have a lot more body weight for their height. And so the general recommendation is to use low impact type of training. There's really no difference for obese individuals or overweight individuals where the frequency comes into play. The more training, the better, right? So at least 5 days per week. We'd love to see them do it 6 or 7 days, even if that seventh day is just taking a walk. But being active is the key, and having more movement and more activity, intensity, duration. Assessments that you're doing with them, according to NASM, pushing and pulling, and the overhead squat, if they can tolerate it, flexibility testing. Yeah, that's a little bit of a challenge depending on how much girth they have in their midsection. There's not a lot of things you can do with individuals. And by the way, because of the new body fat measuring machines that we have, the more accurate bioelectrical impedance devices, you can get a much more accurate assessment of their body fat, which we never really did when you had to use calipers, right? In the old days, right? You use calipers. Well, some people, you can't get a body fat, a fold measurement because the individual, if they were that big, very embarrassing. And you just sort of back off and go, you know what? I'm just writing down 50%. Why? Because I can't get an accurate measurement. Today, I can get an pretty accurate measurement using the more modern bioelectrical impedance devices. This is the ones where the bare feet go on the machine, and then you're holding the other electrodes in your hands. And that gives a pretty accurate, some of the new ones out there can be pretty accurate. So that's where you're going to get your body fat measurements. So BMI tells the body mass index, right? Height and weight versus true body fat measurements. And it could be significant. Of course, the resistance training is good. Why is resistance training good for people that are obese? Come on. Yeah, because it's resistance training that affects insulin sensitivity. And as long as you're getting their nutrition dialed in and on point, you can help them manage, especially if they are pre-diabetic or they are diabetic, you can help manage their insulin sensitivity, right, by doing resistance training. That's one of the really important things about resistance training, is that it can help to a certain extent manage insulin sensitivity or insulin resistance. And there's a lot to it, but it's just one of those variables, right? One of those check boxes that we want to mark when we're trying to help individuals that have overweight or obesity to lose the body fat. Again, it's incorporated with these other variables such as proper nutrition, proper sleep. If they're on meds, they need to be taking their meds and then helping them in this exercise portion. So resistance training, special considerations, very important to read this one box, make sure the client is comfortable, be aware of the positions, locations, right? It says be aware of positions and locations in the facility your client is in. I would think it's the issues related to their body size and their ability to move on pieces of equipment or asking them to do specific exercises. Always be really careful with that because it can be, a little embarrassing for folks who have body image issues, right? To get on certain machines or to do certain exercises that kind of uncomfortable for them. So just be aware of that. And exercises should be performed in a standing or seated position. Why? You don't want obese patients lying on the ground and then having challenges trying to get up. Again, it could be a issue for them, sort of body image wise and just self-esteem wise. They might feel uncomfortable having to roll over and get up. So don't have them lie down on the ground. It's not like you got to do crunches with people, especially in these type of scenarios. There's other exercises you can do. Clients may have other chronic diseases. In such cases, medical release should be obtained from the individual's physician. Really important. By the way, this chapter, just in general, it's really, really important to know this. Obesity, diabetes, these are chronic diseases you will see more and more of. If you haven't already, or if you haven't been training people, you will start seeing more individuals coming in with these issues. So it's really important to know it. And NASM gives you some really good information on that. If you've got any questions, leave them in the comment section below. And if you did understand or at least got the gist of what I'm going over with you in this part of their textbook, then write the word understood or understand in the comment box below. Remember to subscribe to our channel, of course, and give us the old thumbs up if this video was helpful. Have a great week, and we will see you next week.